Good morning, Soho Parish. It's Jackie here. I hope you're all well, and welcome to today's assembly, which is a continuation of our discovery of Black history, with a current focus on British Black history. I'm sure you've been looking at timelines, and I'm going to quickly dip into a portrayal of significant characters before jumping into one of my favourite parts of British Black history. Before I start presenting on some of the characters, ask yourselves, how much do we know about Black British history? Have a look at this map, based on the Roman Empire in 117 AD. The idea of Black Romans may at first have seemed fanciful from what we've been told. We tend to think of Romans as Italians, but looking at this map, that is not specifically the truth. Look at all the pink areas. This is where the Roman Senate based itself. The Roman Empire spanned a huge area, and it was made up of fighting men from all the territories they conquered. In addition, the Romans sent expeditions into the sub-Saharan interior. They would certainly have come into contact with the local people from northern Africa. Now let's just look at this map that is 5 years later, that depicts the construction beginning at Hadrian's Wall in 122 AD. There is evidence that there was a Moorish division of Roman soldiers stationed there, here at Hadrian's Wall, which is near Carlisle, Scotland. Moorish means people from North Africa, from the Morocco area around Morocco. So it's fascinating that there is evidence of there being Black Africans there in 122 AD. Have a look at the image reconstruction of the remains of a Roman woman known as the Ivory Bangle Lady, which date back to the second half of the 4th century. Her remains were found with jet and ivory bracelets and more. There is even a casket which reads, "Hail Sister, may you live in God," indicating that she may have had Christian beliefs. These remains and others that have been found have helped archaeologists discover that wealthy people from across the empire were living in 4th century York. She was a high status woman, and the proportions of the limbs they found suggest that she was Black African. Have a look at this slide. This is one of the first Black Briton who we have a picture of, and it is John Blank, the Royal Tudor trumpeter. The Tudor period was from 1485 to 1603. When you think of Tudor England, you probably think of historical figures such as King Henry VII, King Henry VIII and his 6 wives, Queen Elizabeth I, William Shakespeare, and others, Anne Boleyn even. John Blank was one of the earliest recorded people in England after the Roman period that we have evidence of, historians have evidence for. He was a musician in the early 16th century. Little is known of his life, but we do know from treasury records that he was paid 8 pence a day by Henry VII to be the royal Tudor trumpeter on a... Another Black Tudor we know about is Edward Swarthy. He was a porter during this time. This means he was employed to carry out jobs such as carrying luggage for people. He worked for a politician called Sir Edward Winter in Gloucester, and he was highly respected at that time. In fact, he was so respected, Edward was, that he was asked once to punish one of the white workers who had behaved badly. This was a big deal at the time, as Black people would never be seen to having more authority than white people. Here's an image of Maryphyllis. Maryphyllis was originally from Morocco. She was a Muslim woman who moved to England when she was just 6 years old. She started off as a servant, but because she was so skilled in making things, she became a respected dressmaker, as you can see from the image. Historical records show that Mary changed her religion from being a Muslim to being a Christian during this Tudor times, and she took part in the religious ceremony called a baptism. She was one of 60 black women who were baptised as a way to fit into British society. Fascinating facts that we can learn. From the 1500s, numerous more black Africans came to Britain, often coming via Spain or Portugal. It should be noted, however, that at this time most of them were not slaves, as is usually thought. Most were free, working as soldiers, sailors, divers, musicians, and servants. Have a look at this image of Amoba Aina. She was a princess from a Nigerian community called the Yoruba tribe. After her parents died from being captured by slave traders, she was given as a gift to Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria was impressed by her intelligence. Amoba had to lose her Yoruba identity when she arrived in Britain, and that's when her name was changed to Sarah Forbes Bonetta. In order for her to be accepted into British society, Amoba could no longer be a Nigerian princess, and she became the property of the British Empire. Records show that Queen Victoria cared about her and ended up paying for her education and finding people to look after her. Amoba eventually had a child of her own, and it became Queen Victoria's goddaughter. Teachers, pause me at this time, please, if you may, and can everyone have a discussion within their class about the different people that have been introduced so far? Soho Parish, I hope you've enjoyed discussing some of the characters and personalities that I've introduced to you and knowing a bit more about their timeline as well and when they existed within British history. I'd like to now talk about a couple of more things before I move swiftly on to the area that I really want to discuss with you today. Here's an image of Dido Elizabeth Lindsay. She was known as Belle as well. She lived from 1761 to 1804, and her portrait still hangs in Kenwood House. She was born during a period of time where slaves were sold in the transatlantic slave trade. So that was in between the Atlantic Ocean, between West Africa, England, and America. Her mother was a West African woman, and her father was a white British man who was a Navy officer working in the Caribbean. Dido, or Belle, is often seen as the first black aristocrat, which means she was part of the British upper class at the time. She was taken away from her mother and brought to the UK to be looked after by her father's family in Kenwood House in North London, in Hampstead Heath. However, even though she was part of the upper class, she was not always treated like that because she was of mixed heritage, mixed race, and not white. Historians say that even though her family loved her dearly, they would not let her be seen by guests who would visit the family. So now that I have mentioned just a few significant characters within Black British history, I thought I would just show you a slide that would show the role of the black soldier. This has been underplayed in Western armies for a very long time. Black people have fought in all of the major European armies, including those of Poland and Germany. It's really important to realise how significant their role is in many, many wars. Also, something that I will come to at another time is that a lot of the parish records of British churches record the presence of black parishioners through their birth, death, and marriage certificates. Africans appear in historical art, from paintings of the aristocracy to Hogarth's etchings. Black people are everywhere in Britain's history. This is a really important fact to remember, everybody. Soho Parish, as I said at the beginning, this is a bit of a whirlwind of an assembly. So having gone from very early Roman history and the influence of Black British people there, I'm going to zoom us up throughout the years and talk about British musicians, artists, singers, and people in the entertainment industry as well. There's images of them here from Sade, Courtney Pine, Joan Armatrading, Musical Youth, Kano, Shirley Bassey, and more. And moving slightly more recently as well, we have people like Stormzy, Dave, Craig David, Soul to Soul, Donny, Emily Sandy, Massive Attack, Ella Eyre, Georgia Smith, Mystique, Nena Cherry, and there are so many that I don't have the images up of. And I'm just sort of want to introduce them because I think it's really important that you are aware of how many fantastic British entertainers there are, musicians and singers and actors and directors and producers. And this is an area that really the UK is very, very proud of. It's a fantastic industry, earns a lot of money, and is a great export. Often with a lot of these entertainment industry people, there is also a strong feeling of faith, a strong resilience that has made them determined to succeed in an area of the business that can be really, really tough. Shortly, I'm going to ask the teachers to pause me so you can listen to a song by Stormzy that outlines a bit about the struggle that he has been through to come out through the other end, be very successful, be able to invest in education for other Black children in this country and students who he's funding going to Cambridge. And it's just really admirable how they've all kind of continued to believe in themselves and their talent and show perseverance, just like Ronwin was talking about the rugby player yesterday from Cardiff. So listen to the words carefully, and after that we will move into prayer. Thank you. Soho Parish, I hope you found the words in that song as meaningful as I have. Here are three more artists who are creating their own history, three more Black British artists. Michael Kiwanuka, Celeste, and Shekukana Mason, all of them creating history, not just Black history, creating history. I'd like you now to join with me in prayer and reflect on everything you have learnt, both in class and in all the assemblies that you have been listening to. Make my words your words, and remember our school values as we say them. Dear God, we thank you for all that you have enriched our lives with, and with the spirit of hope and resilience we have seen in all the people we are learning about during Black History. Thank you for helping them to overcome all barriers. We pause to remember all those we have learnt about and their stories, and hope that we can be as strong as they are. We thank you and say this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Wishing you a fantastic day today, Soho Parish, and a great, great learning of your Black history. Take care. Goodbye.